Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
Where's everybody? You guys are too serious. We're going to have some fun here tonight. I think I'm well prepared by virtue of life's experience to speak on a topic tonight. Leverage the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because since 1977, starting in business in 1977, 37 years ago, I have experienced the good, the bad, and the ugly. So what you're about to hear tonight comes from the school of hard knocks, plus a sound intellectual framework. Now, I started in business in 1977 as a financial advisor here in Hamilton with Investors Group. And when I sat across the kitchen table from my clients, I would ask myself the question, Mike, what is the highest value added you can give to this family? What is the highest value added that you can give to this family? They're asking for counsel. What is the biggest benefit you can give to them? And my answer was a resounding, make them wealthy. Isn't that so, ladies and gentlemen? Isn't that what we all aspire to? So the question I had as a young man, aged 26, was, is there a formula that if you follow it methodically, the natural byproduct will be wealth? Is there such a formula? That was my quest as a young man, aged 26. A formula no different from mixing 2 atoms of hydrogen with 1 atom of oxygen. What do you get every time? Water. So is there such a formula? That was my quest. So today, 37 years later, we didn't have to go to the library and go through tomes of literature to figure it out. We can Google it. So who would like to Google? Who has a Google? Who has a phone tonight? Who would like to Google tonight and ask, is there a formula for creating wealth? If you did so, what would you see? What would pop up at you? Anything? I assure you, nothing. Nothing. But you would think that because everybody's aspiring to create wealth, it will be taught in universities, and it would be the first conversation every single advisor would have with his or her client, right? Because that's what you're asking for. That's your aspiration. So in 1976, I studied, I observed, and eureka, it came to me. Anybody interested to know what the formula is? So, I'm going to select someone from the audience. Sir, what's your name, sir? Sean. Sean. Have we met before, Sean? Never. Never met. So this is not a setup. Right? Sean, think of a wealthy person anywhere in the world, in any industry. Have you thought of someone? Could be Australia, Germany, New Zealand, doesn't matter. Think of a wealthy person. Sean, and ladies and gentlemen, work along with Sean. You think of a wealthy person anywhere in the world who created wealth from any industry, doesn't matter. Sean, I'm going to define to you the 5 things that person did to have become wealthy. Right? And I have to get it 5 out of 5 right. Because I don't want to take any risk with your wealth. Right? I have to get it 5 out of 5 right. So let's go. Sean, the person you're thinking of created his or her wealth by, number 1, owning a few high-quality businesses. Am I right, sir?
You're right.
If I'm right, stick your hand up.
You're right.
Ladies and gentlemen, the person you're thinking of, am I right? No? Okay. Sean, number 1. The person you're thinking of, Sean, created his or her wealth by, number 2, really understanding those few businesses. Am I right, Sean?
Yes.
Am I right, ladies and gentlemen? Yes. So wealth is created by owning a few businesses that you understand. Thirdly, Sean, the person you're thinking of, created his or her wealth by making sure that those few businesses are domiciled in strong long-term growth industries. Am I right, Sean?
You're right.
Am I right, ladies and gentlemen? 3 out of 5. Sean, the person you're thinking of, created his or her wealth by using other people's money. Am I right, Sean?
You're right.
Am I right, ladies and gentlemen? 4 to 5. And fifthly, Sean, the person you're thinking of, created his or her wealth by simply holding those few businesses for the long run. Am I right, sir?
You're right.
Am I right, ladies and gentlemen?
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if it is so simple, why don't we all do it? Huh? So, the first question is, shouldn't that be the first conversation you have with your advisor? How is wealth created? So that you can make sure that everything you do is on side of those 5 points. Shouldn't that be the first conversation? Pardon me? When Warren Buffett was asked, Warren, how come you're so rich? How come you grew your net worth from 0 to $60 billion in a lifetime? How is that possible? $60 billion? 60,000 million? He said, well, to be successful over the long run doesn't require stratospheric IQ. Whew, thank God for that. Unusual business insight or any particular inside information. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't need any of that. What's needed is a sound intellectual framework for making decisions. And secondly, the ability to keep one's emotions from corroding their framework. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's not that hard. Number one, we need a framework. Principles, the 5 principles. And secondly, we need to make sure we don't allow our emotions to corrode the 5 principles. And it's as simple as that. But Mr. Buffett also said, what I do is simple, not easy. It's not easy to be consistent over the long run. It's not easy to persevere over the long run. It's not easy to keep our emotions in check over the long run. So we know, now that we have the 5 laws of how wealth is created anywhere in the world, and that was my eureka moment in 1979. So I now said, okay, I'm going to know the highest form of leadership. I'd feel like a hypocrite if I stood up here and was talking to you about creating wealth if I couldn't lead by example, right? I'd be a hypocrite. So the highest form of leadership is to lead by example. So I thought, okay, if those 5 laws are applicable to how wealth is created anywhere and everywhere, what is the first investment that I have to make that would demonstrate, demonstrate adherence to those 5 laws? And so which business do I understand? Which business is domiciled in a strong long-term growth industry? Which business is a function of using other people's money, and which business I would like to hold for the long run? And having those 5 points, principles, I came up in 1982. The answer was Mackenzie Financial Corporation. Anybody heard of Mackenzie? So as a young man, aged 32, I went out and borrowed $500,000 to put into one business, Mackenzie, because I understood it. I was in the industry. Mackenzie went from $1 in 1982. By 1999, 17 years later, we had controlled 30% of Mackenzie. And its share price then, when we sold Mackenzie to Investors Group, was $30. It went from 1 to 30. We sold in Mackenzie for an equivalent of $4.2 billion in 1990, in the year 2000, and we own 30% of it. So having principles guide you, lead you, if you stick to your principles. Next example, I'll use a local example. Local example, in 1985, I noticed Murray is in the room. I had a friend, his name is Tony DeSantis. Anybody knows Tony DeSantis? So I said, Tony, I have a portfolio of Mackenzie, one stock, and I'd like to diversify into real estate. So Tony, will you find me some real estate? But here are the criteria. Tony, I don't want to be awakened in the middle of the night to come and fix anyone's toilet. So I don't want any hassles. I want to have minimal carrying costs. I want to have minimal carrying costs, etc., etc. So Tony, find me a piece of real estate. So he came back 2 weeks later and he said, Mike, there is a piece of land, 64 acres, south of number 5 highway, north of Upper Middle, between Appleby and Walkers, adjacent to Millcroft. Anybody knows Millcroft subdivision? 64 acres owned by Markborough Properties. Murray, do you remember that piece of land? So he said, Markborough Properties, this British development firm, they're asking $2 million for this piece of land. So I said, Tony, don't go back, please, and offer Markborough Properties $2 million. Don't negotiate on the price, but offer $200,000 down and ask them to take back a vendor take-back mortgage of $1.8 million, 0% interest for 5 years. So we didn't have any carrying costs. And if we are able to get that deal, then we rent the land to a farmer, and then we won't have any taxes. The farmer will pay the taxes. So we have no cost. We won't be fixing anybody's toilet. It's raw land right next door to Markborough Property. So he said, Mike, there's no way Markborough Property is going to accept that. I don't know if you remember this, Murray. Eh? So I said, please try. We may get beginner's luck. So lo and behold, he came back 2 weeks later and said, Markborough accepted the deal. This was in 1985. So I called my lawyer, Paul Mazza. I said, Paul, we need to come with $200,000. 50 for you, Roman Barque, my neighbor, 50 for you. Tony, take your commissions, put it into this deal, 50, and I put in 50. So that's how we got our $200,000. By 1989, that piece of land was worth $16 million. I wasn't smart enough, I didn't sell then. 1990, by 1991 it was worth 8, but 200,000 became $8 million. The point is, ladies and gentlemen, you have principles, you make decisions based on principles, the 5 laws, and they guide you, if you can stick to your principles. Now, I've given you some examples. I could continue. We have been blessed because we have created a lot of wealth in real estate, in telecommunications, in asset management, in banking, in stock portfolio, etc., etc. But we also have scars. And Robert Almeida, where's Rob? And I I had to go to Jamaica. We were summoned to Jamaica on April the 1st, 2009. It was the middle of the financial crisis. So we went into this room and we were greeted by 100 note holders. We had outstanding about $100 million owed to these note holders. They had loaned us $100 million. So at the time, as you will recall, the global financial markets were frozen. So notes were not rolling over as they would normally. So now we had $100 million. They aren't rolling over. The note holders wanted their cash. So this was on April the 1st, 1999. So went to Jamaica, flew down, went on the stage, and I said to the note holders, wow, please tell me, what day is today? They said, April the 1st. I said, oh, this must be April Fool's Day. Because there's no way in my worst nightmare I would envision myself standing in front of a group of note holders asking for forbearance. No way. But I didn't need to be here because I don't owe you any money. AIC Barbados owes you. But you loaned AIC Barbados because you have confidence in me. So I could have easily sent an emissary an emissary of executives to deal with you. But I'm here because you saw through the veil of the company and loaned to me, basically, although technically that's not the case. Anyway, so we do have experience at the ugly side of leverage. So tonight's conversation will be leverage, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, aspiration is the main fuel for progress. Aspiration transforms a set of ordinary people into extraordinary achievers. It provides the physical and mental energy for people to convert plausible impossibilities into convincing possibilities. Diana, where is that? Mariam, oh, here it is. Here's a poem that really is inspiring to me. It's entitled Our Greatest Fear, Marianne Williamson. It is not our light. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You're a child of God. Your playing small doesn't serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are born to manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it's in everyone. As we let our own light shine, we consciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a fantastic country, Canada. Canada is a place that has bountiful wealth. Why should us all not optimize the potential that we're fortunate to have been to be in a country that has that available to us? So I went through so far the principles of the 5 laws. Own a few high-quality businesses, thoroughly understand them, make sure the businesses are domiciled in strong long-term growth industries. Wealth is created absolutely by using other people's money prudently and simply holding those few businesses for the long run. There's also a mathematical formula that we have to be on side of if we're going to create wealth. And it's defined as FV equals PV plus 1 plus R to the nth power. What does that mean? FV is the future value of money. PV is the amount of money we have today. So our future wealth is equal to our wealth today, the amount of money we have working for us today, plus open brackets, 1 plus the rate of return we make on that money to the nth power. So if we're talking about creating wealth, we have to abide by the future value formula, by this formula. It's not that complicated, actually. It looks more ominous than it really is. So let me give you an example. A client comes to me and said, Mike, I would like to retire in 20 years. I would like to retire in 20 years. And I'd like to have the equivalent of $100,000 per year today, then. And I have a registered plan, an RSP of $400,000. The question, Mike, is how much money will I need in 20 years to give me the same lifestyle that I can afford with $100,000 today? That's the question. And the answer is you'll need $219,000 per year then, in 2034. $219,000 per year then. So you need to amass enough assets. We need to amass enough assets that will generate that will generate $219,000 per year. Right? Are you with me? So how many assets would we need to generate? If we can make a 6% return, we'd need to generate $3.7 million in total assets. 20 years from now, invest it at 6%, and we get our income of $219,000 per year. Right? Simple. So let us look at the ways in which we could get to that 3.7 million. So ladies and gentlemen, every one of us in this room should be asking ourselves the question, what is my number? For this person's number is $3.7 million. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't have a goal, any road will get you there. If you aim at nothing, you'll hit it with amazing accuracy. So all of us should ask the question, what is my number? Because if you don't know your number, you're not going to get there. Am I right? Okay, so what is my number? That's where you need a financial advisor. So, let us say client A says, Mike, I'm from the old school. I just believe in working, paying taxes, and saving with my after-tax dollars. So, okay, let's see how much you need to save. If that goal of 3.7 million is important to you, you would need to save $66,000 per year for 20 years at 6%, and you will end up with your 3.7 million. So the question is, how many of us can save $66,000 per year? How many of us? Not very many of us. So, and by the way, to save $66,000, how much would you have to make? $132,000, right? And allocate 100% to savings. And you have to find an investment that gives you 6% that pays 6%. So we can conclude, ladies and gentlemen, that for most people, it is impossible to work, pay taxes, and save to become wealthy. It's not going to work. So I don't think you'd want to be the first person to try it. The math would tell you that it won't work unless you can save $66,000 per year, which is $5,476 per month. So let us look at another scenario. So this scenario is, this client says, okay, Mike, I hear you. I hear the 5 laws that a key part of creating wealth is that you have to use other people's money. So tell me now, Mike, how much would I need to have working for me today, compounding at 6%, that will get me to 3.7 million in 20 years. Well, the answer is you'll need $1.56 million per working for your capital upfront, PV, but you already have $400,000, so you need $1.16 million working for you today, compounding at 6%. So your deficit would be 1.16, which has to be made up, right? Because you need a total of 1.56 working for you today to get to 3.7 million, which is what you need to have a lifestyle equivalent to $100,000 in 20 years. So how would I get $1.16 million working for me? Well, how would I get 1.16 million? I can marry it. That's a possibility. I could win it. I could steal it. Right? Any other way? Or I could borrow it. I don't think most of us aspire to marrying it. I don't think, I saw someone said, oh, Mike, be careful of that. I don't think most of us aspire to stealing it, or most of us expect to win it. So our only salvation, our only recourse is to borrow it, to use other people's money. So this is the most realistic way to fulfill that capital deficit. So if you were to borrow $1.16 million and pay 4% interest, your interest cost would be $46,400 per year pre-tax, which you can deduct. You're born to invest, so it's tax deductible against your income. So your after-tax payments will be $23,000 per year, which is $1,933 per month. So we can say working, paying taxes, and saving, it would cost you $5,476 per month versus borrowing to invest, it would cost you $1,933 per month, 1 quarter. Now, but borrowing, there's a downside to borrowing. There's a downside. There's a bad side. So let's assess what the downside is. Firstly, when you borrow, you can magnify your gains, but you can also, and you will also magnify your losses. That's a big risk. It will magnify your gains, but it will also magnify your losses. When you borrow to invest, if you're unable to service the debt, because of a decline of your income, or interest rates went up, you can go into default. And if you're in default, you can lose your assets, right? Likewise, if your collateral value declines, you can exceed covenants, which were prescribed before when you got into the enter into the borrowing arrangement. There can also be foreclosure, which means forced sale of your collateral to repay debt. And the last thing one wants to do is to be selling when assets are down, because that's wealth destruction, that's not wealth creation. That's the last thing you'd like to do, or you don't want to have happen to you. And lastly, when you borrow, sorry, not lastly, there's recourse to you. Not only can you lose your invested equity, but you may also still be in debt. Also, most people, when you borrow, you have to make sure that the assets that you attach to the debt are not poor quality. And you have to make sure that you have reserves to support volatility. So those are some of the downsides of borrowing that one has to make sure that one is cognizant of and mitigate those risks. So the good side of borrowing is that you can make sure that you can be on side of the mathematical equation. Bad side is leverage cuts both ways. The ugly side is default, foreclosure, and recourse, bankruptcy. That's the ugly side. Now, but as you see from, as you saw from this slide, and as we went through earlier, everybody who created wealth did so by using other people's money. So it's not that we want to avoid it, we want to be conscious of the risks and make sure that we mitigate them. That's what we want to do. So how do you do that? So basically what you want to do to optimize and to protect yourself, the optimizing strategy is you buy quality. You buy quality. You buy inexpensively. You try to borrow cheap, ideally zero, as was the case in 1985. You manage your cash flows. You stretch your repayment out indefinitely, if it's possible. And you maintain buffers and manage market risks, which would include interest rate risks, price volatility risks, currency risks. So to optimize, really, you can see there's a lot of professionalism and know-how and expertise necessary to optimize. So, if I were to say to Sean, what is the lowest rate of interest that you can borrow at today? What would the answer be?
0.
No, you can borrow 0, Sean? Can you tell me who's your banker? Eh? Or are you lying to me?
No, well, I'm thinking of car loans, right?
Car loans?
Yeah.
You pay for it in an inflated car price.
True.
Eh?
True.
So what is the lowest rate you can go to a financial institution and borrow at? Sean, today?
Prime.
Prime, which is how much? 3?
About that.
Oh, so you can borrow 3%, right? But when you go and borrow at 3%, there's an upper limit, right?
Right.
Which invariably will be the value of 75% of the value of your home, right? Minus however much debt is already against it, right?
Right.
Okay, so there's an upper limit. There's also, when you borrow, there's recourse to you, right?
Yes.
So if you don't pay, you foreclose. There's foreclosure, right? Okay, Sean, in today's environment, suppose you could borrow at half of that rate, which is what? My math is not good. What is half of prime? 1.5%. Sean, if you could borrow today at 1.5%, what would you do with the money? Conservatively, what would you do with the money, Sean, if you could borrow at 1.5% today?
Invest it by loaning it out at prime or greater than prime.
Sean said invest it by loaning it out at prime or greater than prime. So if you invested and got prime, which is 3%, right. You're paying 1.5%, you're making a spread, 1.5%. That's how banks make their money, right? Sure. That's how everybody creates wealth. Right. Okay. So, Sean, can you think of a security that you are confident in that will pay you a consistent 3% dividend? Mm-hmm. Can you think of, because lending to someone that has frictional costs, you have to set up a whole lending infrastructure, you're taking credit risks, so you may not want to do that, right? But can you think of a business, a stock, that you are confident in, that would pay you a dividend rate that has a historical, that historically has appreciated in value, the dividends, consistently, through thick and thin, even through the crisis? Can you think of one stock?
Bell Canada.
Bell Canada. Bell Canada. Sean, this audience tonight is going to think that this is a setup. Because what's on the screen? What's on the screen? BCE. What's BCE? Bell Canada. Yes. So if Sean can borrow at 1.5%, go to the right. Sean could be getting a dividend yield of how much? What does it say there? I can't read.
It's about 5%.
Approximately 5%. So what if Sean can borrow at 1.5% and put the money into Bell Canada? What is Sean doing? He's getting a net spread, right? Of 3.5%. Isn't that so?
Yes.
Would you borrow at 1.5% and invest it in Bell Canada? Would you have the confidence in Bell Canada?
Definitely.
Definitely?
Yes.
That makes sense, eh? Sure. Ladies and gentlemen, would you? Yes. If you could borrow at 1.5%, that's a big if. Big if. Okay, Sean, suppose you could borrow, sorry, what is half of that rate that you just mentioned? Half of 1.5%. 0.75%, right? If you could borrow at 0.75% rate of interest, Sean, what would you do with the money?
I'd do the same thing.
Did you hear what Sean's answer was? I'll do the same thing. Does that make any sense?
Sure. Yes.
Pardon me? Would you do the same thing? That's a big if. Do you know of anyone in the world who can borrow at 0.75%? Anybody in the world? Pardon me?
No.
Pardon me?
No.
If you could find someone who could give you access to 0.75% funding, what would you do? Pardon me? I beg your pardon? What would you do? If you could find someone who can give you access to 0.75% money, what would you do? Wouldn't you dial up the next day? So you get your notepad. Frank, where are the pencils? Please, hand out the pencils, Frank. You guys are probably thinking that this guy is really smoking something. And he's just entertaining us, right? But I don't think I have a reputation for just trash talk. So, are the pencils handed out? My God, I'm going to give you some numbers. Anyway, you're going to get some pencils so you can write the phone numbers down. So if you can borrow, so the question is, if you can borrow 0.75%, what would you do? Sean said I'd put more money into Bell Canada, right? Because I don't know anyone who has access to 0.75% money. So what Sean is saying is encapsulated in a product that we call the Portland Advantage Plus Fund. And the Portland Advantage Plus Fund, is Kevin Gould here tonight? Kevin is our CFO. Kevin is not here? Kevin is where? Kevin, where is he?
Right here.
Okay. Kevin came to me. Kevin is going to be embarrassed. I said, Mike, you got to stop spending. Sell some of the helicopters. Sell some of the homes. Stop spending. By the way, Gary Krebs, who is sitting in the front of the room, he wouldn't like to hear this because he was our first helicopter pilot. So Kevin came to me and said, Mike, you need to stop spending. We're going to go bankrupt if you keep this up. So I said, Kevin, I like my lifestyle. I'm not going to stop spending, but we need to find a creative solution. So put on your thinking cap. Kevin, Mr. CFO. So what Kevin did, Kevin used his thinking cap, put his thinking cap on, and came up with the following situation. He found a lending institution, a few of them actually, that because of our financial strength is willing to lend us money at 0.6 to 0.75%. Did you hear what I just said? So I thought, whoa, I don't need to sell helicopters. I can keep I have a neighbor. Where's my neighbor? All the cars, I can still keep buzzing my neighbor. Right, so, okay, so if you can, we have access to 0.6% financing. I said, where the hell would you get that? From large institutions, Canadian banks, and actually UBS, RBC, CIBC. Okay, so we're not talking, we're talking about legitimacy here. So if you could borrow 0.6%, and you can find, you can get an average yield of say 6%, 5.5%, say 5.6%. It means that your net is 5%, right? So if you wanted to have cash flow of, how much was it? $1 million, Kevin said, per month. Kevin is saying that, Mike, you need to find extra cash flow of. You need, that's $12 million per year cash flow. You need 12 divided by 0.5, right? Which is $240 million, right? So if you could find so we need needed $240 million invested at 6%, sorry, invested, yielding 6%, 240 times 0.06 is $12 million per year. Right, Kevin? Am I right, sir? So the question is, how are you going to get that 240 million? So anyway, we figured it out, which once we figured it out, we encapsulated those principles in the Portland Advantage Plus Fund, because we thought if it's good for us, it's good for our clients. They too would love to have access to 0.6% money, and they too would like to do exactly what Sean just mentioned. Am I being presumptuous here?
No.
Pardon me? No. I don't hear you say resounding yes. So that's how the Portland Advantage Plus Fund was started. So where am I now? So the Portland Advantage Plus Fund, it's in complete alignment with the 5 laws of wealth creation. It's giving clients access to Portland's financial strength and reputation, which means we're giving you access to the same borrowing rate that we are getting. The Portland Advantage Plus Fund invests in a limited number of high-quality securities with an emphasis towards being large capitalization. They're like Bell Canada. High dividend yields, because we want that spread. Dividends are usually consistent. Stock price may go up and down, but dividends are consistent. High liquidity, low volatility. We want sector diversification, and we want businesses in strong long-term growth industries. Again, remember we started off with how wealth is created. So anything we do have to pass through that sieve. And we have to now manage the default risk. And how do we do it? We invest in relatively stable assets. We make sure that our loan-to-value ratio is conservative. We make sure we manage the interest rate risks. And how do we manage the risk of rising interest rates? 50%. Here's our logic. the Federal Reserve Board in the United States and the European Union, they are going to maintain a policy of low interest rates until the economy is on its 2 feet. Am I right? Yeah. And inflation comes back. Then they'll start cranking up interest rates. Am I right? Yeah. When unemployment comes up. They don't want a recession right now. Am I right? So they'll do whatever is heavenly possible to keep interest rates low and get the economy going and some inflation back into the economy. They want some inflation. If the economy, once the economy strengthens, what will that do to oil price, ladies and gentlemen?
Drive it up.
Pardon me?
Drive it up.
It's certainly not going to go down. So it's going to go up. Right? So what we did, also, the world has been a relatively nascent, quiet place over the last 5 years. Not too many wars around, not too many major wars. So oil price also has been down at $100. It's been just bouncing around at 100, 102, 98 for the last 5 years. It's not likely that it's going to stay down there forever. It's more likely that we'll have geopolitical conflicts coming from where we're coming from over the last 5 years. It's more, and we'll not have, it's less likely for us to have a recession. It's more likely that we're going to have a continued growth in our economy, and inflation will come back, so oil price will go up. Therefore, we have invested 50% of our portfolio in energy-related companies. So if interest rates go up, we're going to make we'd have made a lot of capital gain. And oil price goes up, it means that we're going to get increased dividend flows and capital gains to boot. So the portfolio has a heavy focus on oil sector investments, which provides a partial hedge against rising interest rates. The portfolio interest rates tend to go up if inflation is rising and the economy is growing. Oil price tend to go up if inflation is rising and the economy is growing. Here's the example of BCE. BCE, it's a quality company, it's an essential service, it's in a strong growth industry, it's a market leader with many competitive advantages, long history of profitability, dividend has been paid consistently, dividends have grown consistently, and it's often referred to as the granny stock. So what we're doing, because we have access to inexpensive funds, we aren't taking any risks on the assets. Does that make sense? So, so just to go through the math, if BCE, if you have $100 and you can invest it directly into BCE, you'll get $5 in dividends per year. In the Advantage Plus fund, the McKinley fund, we're borrowing an extra another $100. So you now have $200 working for you. Your 100 plus 100 that is borrowed at 0.6%. The $100 that is borrowed at 0.6% will also yield you 5% dividend, right? But it's as $5 minus 0.6% in your cost, which is 4.4%. So on the $200, you're making $9.4 per year. Are you with me? Yes. But on your $100, $9.4 as a fraction of 100 is what? 9.4%. So we have just taken inexpensive financing, low leverage, a conservative stock that has consistent dividend yield, and boost the yield from 5% to 9.5%. Okay, so here's what the current portfolio looks like. Baytex Energy with a market cap of $8 billion. The yield, Baytex Energy, is 5.92%. BCE with a market cap of $39 billion, 5%. Bell Alliant market cap, this is the equivalent of BCE out east, market cap of $6.4 billion. Yield 6.73%. Brookfield Infrastructure Partners, market cap of $9.5 billion. So these are large companies that are essential service services companies, basically. Yield of 4.65%. Brookfield Properties, one of the largest real estate companies in the world. Market cap of 4.9. Dividend yield 4.83%. Canadian Oil Sands, market cap 11.7 billion. Market yield 5.76. Crescent Point Energy, 19 billion market cap, yield 5.93. Investors Group, 13 billion, yield 4.2. Johnson & Johnson market cap 289 billion, yield 2.73%. Northland Power, market cap 2.6 billion, yield 6%. Bank of Nova Scotia, 86, yield 3.59. Procter & Gamble, 215 billion, yield 3.23. And TransAlta Utilities, Renewables, 1.3 billion, yield 6.75%. The average yield on this portfolio would work out to be about 5.62% today, the average yield. So you can see what we're doing in the Portland Advantage Plus Fund is attaching conservative businesses that are essential services, that are strong dividend payers, to inexpensive debt, not highly levered, to increase our cash flow. So this chart shows the bottom left-hand corner, an unlevered portfolio, 5.39%. So if you're just investing in a basket of stocks, let's refer to this stock generically as Bell Canada. You'll be getting 5.39% yield. With the Kilimanjaro Fund, so what we have now done is giving clients three choices. Choice number one is a leverage ratio, a loan-to-value ratio of 40%, which is Kilimanjaro. McKinley, loan-to-value ratio of 50%, meaning for every dollar the client puts in, there's another dollar working for the client. You can see the yield is now up to 10.18%. Cash flow yield, payable monthly. And Everest, the loan-to-value ratio on the Everest Fund, you can select the Everest Fund, is 60%. So, and the yield is now 12.58%. Translated into the distribution that we're paying per month, ranges from Everest 10% per month, 8.5%, and 7% Kilimanjaro. Those are our target distribution yields. In addition to that, there is the upside from capital gain, or the fluctuate. You'll get the enhanced leverage from capital gains, which is shown in this chart here. The TSX, over the last 10 years, this is a back test of the portfolio that I just showed you. Over the last 10 years, the TSX would have increased, $100 would now be worth $256. The portfolio without leverage, just those 12 stocks, would be worth $475. Ladies and gentlemen, there are very few mutual funds that do better than the TSX. Very few. Investing in the Kilimanjaro, the AIC Portland Advantage Kilimanjaro series, $100 would be worth $684. McKinley series, which is a 1-to-1, it would be worth $721, and the Everest series, $100 would be worth $804 over the last 10 years. And the dividend yield that will be generated today from the Everest series, you see that bracket, will be $43 in dividends per $100 of equity. So it's like a 43% dividend yield on the equity today. So let's get back to that client that we started off with, the client who had an aspiration to have an income of $100,000 equivalent 20 years from now. That client had to accumulate how much in assets? What's that client's number? I didn't hear. 3.7 million, yes. And if the client chose to work, pay taxes, and save, how much would the client have to save per year? $66,000 per year. If the client bought, board to invest, how much would it cost the client in per year? How much? 19,000, was it? Or $1,900 per month? So about $23,000 per year. Okay, so let's now, and remember this client had $400,000 in RSPs, right? Right? So what this shows is that what this client could now do is take the $400,000 in RSPs, invest that into the Kilimanjaro fund, the McKinley fund. So how much would the client have effectively working for him or her? 800,000. By the way, can you leverage in your RSP? You can't. But through this fund you can. So what have you just done? Increase your PV, isn't it? Isn't that so? Isn't that what you just did? So this client could take the 400,000, invest it in the McKinley fund, and at 11.5% return on their equity, which is half of that would be on, it would be 6%, say, on the whole portfolio. Are you with me? Over the next 20 years, that RSP would be enough to cover that deficit. Are you with me? So the comparators are $5,476 per month for those clients who work, pay taxes, and save, versus $1,933 per month, borrowing to invest, 0 per month, based on that RSP being invested in the Kilimanjaro fund and at 6% portfolio growth overall, which means an 11.5% on the equity, because the equity is half of the portfolio. Did I lose you? Are you with me? So that's the power, ladies and gentlemen, of using other people's money. So the road to financial independence starts with establishing a goal. The first conversation one should be having with their advisor is, what's my number? What's my number? What is my goal? Making sure that you're optimizing the mathematics of wealth creation, which is the future value formula. Making sure you do not violate how every single person in the world who has created wealth created it, which is abiding by those 5 principles. Number 1, owning a few high-quality businesses. Number 2, making sure you understand them. Number 3, making sure that they're in strong long-term growth industries. I don't think anybody can say that these businesses are not in strong long-term growth industries. Number 4, using other people's money. And number 5, simply holding them for the long run. So, making sure we optimize PV, which leverage enables achievement of a higher future value by increasing the PV, which is what the example I showed you with the RSP being rolled into the Kilimanjaro fund. Making sure that the risk of leverage is managed, and a package solution is available through the product, which the Portland Advantage Fund Plus. So, ladies and gentlemen, in summary, there is a better way than working, paying taxes, and saving to create wealth. It won't work. No one has ever created wealth going down that route. The only way wealth has been created is to abide by the principles of the 5 laws, which you agreed with, Richard, making sure that you use debt prudently, be conscious of the risks associated with debt, making sure those risks are managed and mitigated, and have confidence in the future, in the businesses that we showed you. So on that note, I'd like to throw out a challenge. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a student of wealth creation. That's my passion. I'm a student of wealth creation. This, which I just went through with you, is what we are doing. We're eating our own cooking. Am I right, Kevin? We're eating our own cooking. So we're leading by example. Anyone, for instance, Crescent Point Energy, we have, how much, Kevin? Nearly $50 million invested in Crescent Point Energy. That's Baytex, $30 million invested in Baytex. So we are eating our own cooking. This is what we're doing. So what we're doing is saying, look, if it's good for us, unless you know a better way to create wealth, we're inviting you to join us. Thank you very much.